Welcome to the Interrogation True Crime Stories podcast. All the stories told on this show are either fabricated, alleged, or didn't happen at all and shouldn't be used in the court of law. We hope. All right, everybody. This is pretty exciting news. We've been doing this podcast for a little while. I love that you guys love the show, so please keep listening, like, review, subscribe, do the whole thing. All your support goes a long way. And things have been going well enough that, hey, we have our first official sponsor / partner for the show, and that is Pioneer Clothing. That's Pioneer with a Y. Now, it's a clothing company with a mission to provide high-quality, comfortable, and stylish clothing for casual, everyday wear. And it's based out of the Adirondacks, which is where I'm from originally, in upstate New York, so it's near and dear to my heart. But Pioneer shirts are made with 100% ring-spun cotton, have relaxed fit, and a soft, lived-in feel from the first time you wear them, which is very true. Like, the first time I ever put one of these shirts on, it's like, it's not too light, it's not too heavy, it just feels really comfortable. Pioneer strapback hats are a nod to urban streetwear culture with designs inspired by nature. So they've got dope shirts, they've got dope hats. Pioneer clothing and hats are great for a walk in at the park, hanging by the campfire, or a night out on the town. A perfect summer fit. So right now you can visit their website for pioneerclothing.com. The stuff's out there now. To find out more information and use discount code CRIME25 for 25% off your first purchase. That's a pretty good deal. Some of these places, they're only offering you like 10%, but for our listeners and viewers, it's going to be 25. So that's CRIME25 for your first purchase at pioneerclothing.com. That's Pioneer with a Y, and get the discount code, get you some fresh gear for the summer, and support a cool company. All right, welcome to the Interrogation True Crime Stories podcast. I'm your host, Corey David, and today we have a special guest.
So special.
Like all the specials from Atlanta, Georgia. Gabbie Watts, everybody.
Hello, everybody. It's me, Gabbie Watts.
I never know what to say in that spot when you introduce the guest. Is there a better cue? Is there a good cue to be like, and then it's this person? And you kind of maybe tee them up.
You can say, welcome to the show, or you could say something, a greeting. Like, what's up, bitch, or something.
I'll start with that.
Yeah.
I think some people might hate it, but...
Can I curse on this podcast?
Yeah, right? That's what everybody always asks. I'm like, what do you think this is?
I mean, I don't know if the FCC, I don't know if you're going to put this on, like, public access television or something, you know? We could. Because
that's the medium that everybody's trying to break into right now.
I think so. I was on public access television in Fayetteville, Arkansas, allegedly, at 3:30 in the morning. So that's my one credit so far.
I mean, did you condone it? Or did you just appear?
Well, they said that they were filming it. I mean, I don't think whatever I said wasn't very good. And we didn't have to like be clean or anything. Yeah. So I don't know.
Okay.
It's out there, maybe.
Yeah, I was on an Adult Swim show for like, I think it aired for a night at like 2 a.m. People are like, what were you on? I was like, Spaghetti High. And they're like, never heard of it. I'm like, I don't think anybody heard of it.
Yeah, but you can now have the little logo, though, in your credits. So that's fine. It doesn't matter.
Yeah, I mean, credits are all hogwash anyway. I mean, the way I always see it is credits only matter if that's the reason people came to see you in the first place. And in which case, they already know that you were on the thing. It's like if you were going to say, this person's been on Colbert. Well, if that meant anything, they would have been there because they saw you on Colbert. Yes? No?
Yeah. Don't you mean Colbert? No.
I've been saying it wrong this entire time just for years. Yeah. So how's the run been? You've been out here for about a week now, right? Or close to it?
Yeah. No, Denver's been good, except for the rain. It's been horrible. It's been storming. And then I was sad, and I ran into this guy in the elevator. I was staying at a Holiday Inn, not to brag about my riches and my spoils. But there's this guy in the elevator, and he was like, how are you doing? And I was like, oh, I'm fine. I'm a little dreary because of the weather. And he's like, I love the rain. And then we parted ways.
Also, to use the word dreary in an appropriate context about how you feel. I feel dreary.
I did, yeah. And then I had some other weird experiences at the Holiday Inn. I went to, because they have like a laundry machine area, and I went over there, but there was this guy in there just like, I guess he was surveying all of them, and like his clothes were in all of the things. They were all occupied, and I was just trying to see how expensive everything was, like how many quarters I needed. And then so I was just looking at stuff, and then he was like, can I help you? I'm like, I'm not trying to steal your laundry, bro, but maybe I mean, I don't think I think we probably had different sizes. He was quite rotund.
Okay, but it's a baggy fit. People like that.
Yeah,
It's
I
good
mean
style.
Gen Z does. I mean I don't understand Gen Z. Their pants they're so baggy, and like I went to Urban Outfitters recently because I was like that's where I used to buy pants when I was like in high school, like when it was like the skinny jeans era. And then I went there and I was like, why are these pants? They were so low, and then they were also so wide, and they had so many holes in them. Ugh, I'm a boomer now.
Yeah, I was gonna say
Kids
things have changed.
these days.
Yeah, you look at the fashion that everybody's wearing, because I'm sure that happened exactly for us too.
Yeah.
I remember my parents used to dog me all the time because I dressed more like, I always kind of dressed like a skater, or at least like that old punk style, like pop punk style, where it was like long sleeve t-shirts under a t-shirt and Jinko jeans.
Hell yeah.
And that sort of deal. And I'm sure that looked, and it, not even just to our parents, but to looking back on it as well, fucking dumb. Not great.
Well, I mean, yeah, no. Yeah, I tried to be goth for a while.
Oh, you don't say.
Yeah, I mean, now, but I wasn't a very authentic goth. I feel like there was, maybe I was too much into Lord of the Rings to be a goth. I don't know.
Were you ever a witch? Were you ever Wiccan?
No, my sister's a witch though. I remember in middle school, my mom, we were driving her, she was a mall rat. And so I remember my mom was driving her to the mall and I was in the back seat, and they had this argument and where my mom then I think threw away all of her Wiccan books.
Oh no.
Like I think that's the only time my mom was like, I don't know, her conservative Christian roots came out briefly. But now my sister's a full-blown witch. She has like an aura photography business. She like goes into the woods and like does spiritual stuff. She has like a bunch of like crystals and sacred items from like the Amazon.com and just like all sorts of, it's just, yeah, she's like a straight up witch, does rituals and shit.
Did anything bad happen to your mom after she tossed out all the books?
I mean, probably just the guilt of being such a mother. I don't know.
She was stricken by a feeling that was just like, I've been a terrible mom.
Yeah, I mean, it didn't work because, yeah, my sister is like full-blown woo-woo.
Oh, no, I get it. I'm just trying to think if these books held any power at all. I feel like tossing them into the garbage would be some kind of manifestation of whatever evil potential power they could have held.
Yeah, I mean, you would hope, but also...
You would hope.
You would hope, maybe, I guess.
If there's anything here at all.
Like, my sister was really into it, so I hope there's really something there, but I'm, like, just, like, I'm just so, like, atheist at this point. I'm just like, Like, sometimes I go to the witchy stuff and just look at it, but I can't. I have no spirituality within me, which is interesting because my sister is, like, so spiritual.
You were raised in a particular religion or no?
Technically we were like Presbyterian or something, but yeah. I only did the bi part of it. Now I'm bisexual, so I don't know. But I don't know. Yeah, no, not really. I guess I also don't ever really feel like I was particularly oppressed by religion, but I guess Christianity is everywhere and oppresses us in all sorts of different ways that we don't know. And yeah, so yeah, I'm very like it's almost like I'm an anti-theist.
Okay. You just don't like to believe in anything one way or the other.
Or I'm just like, I'm just like okay with uncertainty,
Yeah.
I'm chill with it.
Yeah, I think that's the better way to go about life in general, is like, it shouldn't matter. Like, It doesn't matter. Like letting it weigh on you one way or the other isn't helpful and also not healthy.
Yeah, because even being an atheist, that's still a belief system. So I couldn't even say I'm a atheist because I'm like, yeah, IDK. That's more where I'm at right now.
Yeah, you just practice bisexuality.
Yeah,
that's
the
only
only
thing you practice.
Yeah. I mean, I hardly practice it, but I do talk about it on stage because what else is there to talk about? Nothing.
Yeah, it's unique. Nobody's talking about it.
Yeah, no one's ever been bisexual before, just me. So.
Well, do you think that's the bulk of what you've been talking about recently, or is that just is that stuff you had before and you just still do it now?
I think the bulk of it's bisexual. I think, how have I divided my set is bisexuality, alcoholism. I have like a lot of sex jokes, but I realize none of them are really about having sex. They're about how sex is gross mostly. So I think there's just like being sexually repressed, being bisexual, and then being an alcoholic. Mm-hmm. And now I've been doing some musical comedy, heaven forbid, and that's some more zany, silly stuff.
What prompted that?
Just I needed more time, and I guess
I just needed to fill a slot.
Yeah, I just needed. It's like I was doing a longer set, and I was like, I need some more minutes. And I think over the pandemic, I started doing like TikTok and stuff. So I made a lot of like I called it. What did I call it? I called it like anxiety pop. So I made these like 1 minute songs, and those went viral, and it was the most attention I'd ever gotten on like the internet or anything.
Oh, I thought you were going to say just in general, like as a person, it's the most attention anybody's ever given me.
Well, also that too, yeah.
It's the admiration of strangers that keeps feeding us.
That's what counts, you know? I'm always like, oh, no one ever comes to my shows, and like 2 of my friends are like, we're here. I'm like, you guys don't count.
It's like, I need the whole room to be full.
Exactly. I need people I don't know loving me. You guys, whatever. Just because you love me for who I am, that's stupid. No, thank you.
So the anxiety pop stuff, is it, what, are you playing guitar?
In the stuff I made on TikTok, it was like terrible beats that I made.
Oh, fun.
But
yeah.
I've now adapted them to guitar just because that's like the easiest thing to do. And I was doing electric, and I thought it'd be fun one day to like have like a full like pedal board and like just make weird sounds and just like go over the top with it, but then still just play the guitar really badly. But now I just have an acoustic because it's just like so much easier. It's also, I just always feel, since it's new, I always feel like I'm a burden going up to showrunners being like, hey, I have a guitar, is that okay? I'm sorry. You know.
Have you thought about getting like the beat pads that you can just put on your phone?
Yeah, I mean, I thought of that. And
There's a comic here that does that, and it's pretty fun, actually. Like
Yeah.
he's really good at playing like full songs on his phone.
Yeah.
Because it just has like the little, you can set the, just like you would like a regular beat pad, you can just set the synth sounds and everything else. And it could be an easy workaround. I think all you would need to do is,
I would have to have good rhythm though, which I don't. I have no rhythm at all.
I haven't seen, that yet. You haven't shown me that you walked in here just fine,
Thank you.
I didn't see a lot of side to side weird walkie movements.
Well, thank you.
Yeah,
That's the
no doubt.
nicest thing anyone's ever said
Today.
to me. Yeah, today. I'm gonna like break my leg later just because you said that.
Yeah.
Out of spite.
Just to do the bit. Just to do the bit.
Exactly. It's all for the bit.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes
So-
I do the bit too much though, but that's fine. That's for my therapist.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, if you got to sell it if only for yourself.
Exactly.
Yeah, just carry it out. So, how long have you been in Atlanta?
I was born there.
Yeah, and then you started comedy how long ago?
5 years ago.
Okay, and then it seems like obviously it's hard when you kind of don't. You were born in that scene, so have you
I
seen
was
it?
born in the scene of comedy.
Born into the scene, yeah. Just like I came out of the womb at Laughing Skull.
Exactly. It wasn't even founded yet, but I was in the dirt, in the muck.
But it's the one that you knew firsthand because like I moved to Denver from like a much smaller scene, so there was a stark difference there. Like when we met down in Atlanta, like I was thoroughly impressed with like the number of shows, the quality of comics, just the amount of stage time that you can get like on a week in and week out basis. Like, what do you have any kind of general what's the word I'm looking for? Not assumptions, but just headlines, I'd say, about like Atlanta comedy and what you think about it.
Headlines of Atlanta comedy. Well. Yeah, no, there's a lot of good stage time, and I think it's nice because it's like driving distance to other smaller scenes. So if you get good in Atlanta, you can go other places and get like longer sets, which is good because in Atlanta everything's like 8 minutes for the most. It's like a lot of showcase stuff.
Right.
So it's kind of when you're trying to figure out how to do longer stuff, which I'm kind of like there now of trying to like figure out like what does 20 minutes feel like and how do you make it feel good? You kind of have to like maybe go elsewhere just because there's such like great talent there. So sometimes there's like the cream of the crop who are doing that, and then you gotta work your way up. But I think, there's a lot of good shows. There's a lot of bad shows. There's a lot of middling shows. And I think it's fun because there is like an experimental spirit in some of it. Like we have this new venue called Dynamic El Dorado. I mean, it's a few years old and it's like a DIY kind of place, and that's fun. You can sort of like do zanier stuff. That's fun. But then there is also a lot of, just like straightforward, let's like do good jokes at like Laughing Skull or whatever. And I think it's also, I like doing comedy there just because the crowds are all so different because, you have like your kind of more mainstream like comedy rooms, and then you can go sort of outside of the perimeter of like 285, which is the highway that circles Atlanta, and you have more like conservative crowds, but then you can also have like different types of conservative crowds. Like you can have like the young rednecks who I feel like they're fun, or you could have like you can have like the snottier like conservative Christian people who it's like those people I don't necessarily win over all the time.
I can imagine, yeah.
But I think that's
Nor do
like,
you want to.
But I feel like that really has made me a better comic, is just having like all these different rooms. And then there's also kind of like I mean, Atlanta's done I think post-pandemic we've done a better job of having like more diverse lineups, but obviously there's been a lot of like sort of segregation of the scenes, because there's definitely like a black scene, and like going into those rooms too, that's like kind of you do something different there too. So I think it's just kind of like being a comic, it's a really good place to be, because it's like you're learning how to like, you know, get everybody on your side.
It's nice to have that pretty contained too. Like it's in one city, but you can hit so many different demographics, even just within one like geographic area. I feel like here you can see a lot of people get stuck in performing in the city, and then if they go half an hour in any direction, it's just like, I don't know, that's kind of nerve-wracking. It's like, are you kidding? Like, you don't think your jokes travel 30 minutes away from the city that you live in?
Because at the end of the day, if you're funny, then you're funny.
Yeah, exactly. And I think you can definitely play to a certain crowd, whether it's your presentation or it's certain types of material or whatever, but ultimately you should still be figuring out if this stuff works when I say everywhere, I mean, you don't have to pander, you don't have to be a hack, but you know, there still is like, no, this is something original to you, and it says something to you about your voice, but it's for one reason or another only works here. Yeah.
Well, it's been fun to be here, because I guess in Atlanta, it is, I often, like when I'm there, I don't think of it as the South, because it's a very like liberal pocket. But it's interesting here because the sets that I've done, I've like done more abortion jokes and people laugh at them. But right now in Georgia, if you do abortion jokes, everyone's just sad.
Oh, dude, when I mentioned Jesus like at all down there, it was like deafening silence. I'm like, I'm not even making fun of the guy. I'm talking about being raised Mormon. And you guys are all getting a little too uptight for that right now.
Yeah, which is kind of interesting, like even in like I guess like the edgier rooms or the more liberal rooms, just because I guess liberals are sad right now.
It's just all emo kids.
Yeah, it's just kind of like if you say abortion, they're just like, oh
no.
Oh no. But here I'm just like, I think there is something nice about then going to places where maybe it's a little bit more liberal, or you're like have fewer laws that are like, you know, taking autonomy away from your body and stuff. There's it is nice to then be like, oh, there are a lot of things that I want to say that are funny that I don't get to say. Yeah. You know, kind of in the South, or if you could say them, but then you could just bomb the rest of your set.
Yeah, I mean, that's the reality of it, is no matter how good a joke is.
Don't make it harder for yourself.
Right, yeah, no matter how good a joke is, sometimes it's just like there's certain audiences that are just not receptive to it, and that's part of the job too, is being able to identify that, and you either, all right, we're either going to go down with the ship, or I'm just going to pivot, and we're going to go over here, and we'll carry on with the rest of my set, and maybe the rest of the night, without tanking the entire show.
Yeah, and I always... Something that I always beat myself up about is that I don't have like as much clean stuff as I would like, because I feel like that's kind of like something that older people in Atlanta scene will say all the time. So you need your like 30-minute clean set, which I mean, you do, but it's at the same time, I'm like, whenever I do clean material, it's never like hitting as hard because I'm not as like well practiced in it, I suppose. But what I found though is that I feel like every audience loves dick jokes. Like that's like the universal thing. Yeah. Like every single person loves dick jokes. And so I'm just like, well, that's kind of like being dirty in the South has actually been a benefit, because like everyone's like into that. I feel like everyone's into it.
Everyone loves dicks. Even if you're just joking about it.
Yeah, just like laugh at a dick.
Yeah, but then conversely, if you do like some pussy jokes, people are like, "Oh my god, she's foul." Like,
yeah, exactly. It's like disgusting. I mean, the thing I get self-conscious about that, where people are like, all women talk about are like their pussies and dicks and sex, and I'm like, well, not all women, but I do. Yeah, I do. But what's wrong with that? There's nothing wrong with it. It's fun.
It comes and goes in phases, you know, like sometimes people will say like, oh, you should write clean. But I always say, I'm not trying to write dirty, and I'm not trying to write clean. It's literally just what comes to me at the time, and if audiences are receptive to it or not. That's it. Like when I'm trying out new material, it's not like I'm actively being like, hey, really want to work on a clean 15. It's like, no, this is just the stuff that came to me that week that I started writing about, and now I'm presenting it, and it's kind of up to the audience to decide if this is any good or not, right? Yeah. Like I can think it's funny as much as I want, but it's always the crowd that decides. Like that's why comedy's awesome, is because it's like nobody pulls any punches, really. Like if it's funny, people laugh. They can't help it. But if it's not, then you're going to get deafening silence.
Yeah. What a sound.
Yeah.
Silence is so loud. People don't even know that.
Just all of a sudden you forgot every thought you've ever had and what you were going to say next. And you're like, That hit me like a ton of bricks. I didn't like that. Yeah,
whoopsies. But writing clean is a fun challenge though, because then I was trying to challenge myself to write a like dry bar clean, where it's kind of like, oh yes, I have different beliefs.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. It's been fun trying to do that, but to limited success. So
have
far.
you noticed anything like a strategy that you take while you're writing to like to look for the punchline that's cleaner? Is it being just more direct and just stating the obvious, or is it still trying to come up with like a twist that they didn't see coming that didn't involve any vulgarity?
Yeah, I guess I like try to challenge myself to still, it's like, how can I be edgy but within clean and still, because I feel like you can still do that. Like I have this song that I've been doing that I just sing in a British accent, because I'm like, all these British singers, they sing in a British accent, and I'm American who sings in a British accent, and I still like say some pretty like dark stuff about like the Queen dying and like how I hope James Corden kills himself and like other stuff like that. But it's technically clean, but it still works because it's still you're dealing with life and death and kind of just like this zaniness.
But it sounds whimsical and cute.
Yeah, exactly.
Because it's in a British accent.
Exactly. Yeah. So I'm just like, I need to figure out how to do more stuff like that. But that's been fun.
Yeah, tight. All right. Well, let's get into some dumb crimes that I found on the internet this week. So I'll read the headline. Just give me your first genuine reaction to it, okay?
Okay.
Sweet. Thieves made off with $200 worth of sneakers. 200 sneakers worth over $1,300, but they were all just the right foot. Any thoughts?
That seems they have to be really organized to do that, because most shoes come in boxes.
Well, yeah, but I mean, I think they just took everything right off the display.
Oh.
Yeah, they didn't go into the back. That would have been the smart move. The smart move would have been to just, you already broke into one door. What's one more?
Yeah, what's one more?
Like, why did they stop at the first door? I mean, do they not own a pair of shoes? Have they never shopped for shoes before?
Maybe there's just a deficit in the right foot. I mean, a lot of people are like right-footed, so that you end up leaning on your right foot more. So like so maybe there's just like a right foot, disparity between the shoes. So they're just like, really, we just need the right shoes. Or maybe they were just on meth or something, and there wasn't necessarily a consideration of logic.
Highly likely drugs were involved, but at the same time, this could be a hack to just get people designer or like cool hype shoes for half the price. Like if they're just if they're charging full price, that's stupid and criminal. But if they're like, hey, we got the latest drop of Nikes, but you're only going to get half the drip.
Yeah,
you're not going to get a full.
You're just going to have to like always have like one leg under the table or something. Be like, yeah, look at my flashy shoes, but don't look at my other barren foot.
Yeah, as you're trying to flex, you just sneakily just kick out one leg and then you tuck the other one back
exactly.
at the same time.
Yeah.
Kind of like a fun standing split.
Or maybe this is the first part one of the crime, and they're going to come back for the left shoes later. I don't know. Or maybe they've now put the left shoes all in a safe, being like, they're coming for you.
Yeah, that's like the easiest trap ever.
Exactly. Yeah. But I mean, sometimes you got to divide up your work, and sometimes first you got to do the right shoe, and then you got to do the left one.
Just one foot in front of the other.
Exactly.
And soon you'll be walking out the door.
Yeah, just footsteps. That's how you reach to your higher goals. So I think it makes sense.
Do you think there's enough of a market of one-legged people just looking for cool shoes?
They're probably definitely underrepresented.
I think one-legged people are underrepresented at large.
Yeah, exactly. So I think actually these were angels who stole these shoes to give out to people who maybe they would like a shoe for their one leg, and then maybe they don't want to buy the two pairs. So I mean, maybe they're doing good work. Maybe they're part of a nonprofit for only right-legged, one-legged folks.
Yeah, what if it was a group of one-legged individuals that completed the heist? That would be more impressive.
That would be. I mean, we'll see when they catch them.
Yeah. They're all wearing one running shoe, so they're very fast.
Yeah.
Very quick. They've got the spring.
Or maybe, I mean, in the world of extreme sports, there might be a one-footed sport that you're doing. Though I guess in designer shoes, you're supposed to just look at them. I mean, that's also the thing about shoes. You're supposed to that's like the sneakerheads. It's like they don't even wear them. They just like have them.
Are you in? Have you ever gotten into like sneaker culture or anything?
No. I did recently switch over from Doc Martens to some Adidas shoes.
Oh, wow.
So
big
that's,
change.
I know it's a huge change. I know.
Big turn.
Who am I? I don't even know. But yeah, I feel like the sneaker people, it is a little baffling but I mean, it makes sense though, status, etc. You know.
But sometimes I'll see some of these sneaker people and they'll have nice shoes, but I'm like, man, the rest of your outfit is whack. Like the rest of your outfit is terrible. But you've got, all right, cool. I guess you have some nice shoes now.
But it's good. I mean, in this day and age, it's good to have like your shoes because we're all looking down. We're looking at our phones. We don't make eye contact anymore. So it's just the shoes are the only thing we're seeing anymore.
I've just never been a careful enough person to always keep them clean. That's my biggest deal. It's like shoes were meant to be like it's literally the only part of you that's touching the dirty ground all the time. And now I'm supposed to keep these things pristine.
Yeah, and I'm always trekking through mud. You know, that's just my life. I'm just a dirty bitch going through the mud.
I literally drag my feet everywhere.
Exactly. Yeah, I'm always doing kind of like those war crawls, like I was in Vietnam. So my ex-boyfriend, he did make fun of, I got some white shoes, which that was a mistake. They're definitely brown now and like speckled brown. I'm just a messy person in general. So really it was a big mistake getting them. But I also, speaking of only doing things for the bit, I thought these shoes were awful colors and I thought that was funny. So I got them and I wear them a lot, but because they were like this fleshy pink and red and then also white. And I was like, these are gross. I want to have these shoes.
It's kind of like a bloody Band-Aid.
Yeah. And so I guess them being dirty kind of makes sense. But then he would, make fun of me. He was like, you got to clean your shoes. I was like, I don't have to do anything, sir. And I was like, maybe I should have cleaned these. They look really bad now.
If you made an ugly shoe worse in some way, shape, or form.
But I think it's fitting. I think it's on brand. I mean, it would be weird if I had pristine shoes. It'd be like very off brand for the whole comedy routine. Like I've even had like I have like 4-inch platforms that are also just like one white wedge that have also gone through the muck. So but it's like the wedges, so it's all it looks really bad. So yeah. No,
so it's all bad.
Yeah, it's all bad. Yeah, just don't look at my feet.
Yeah, I'm trying to get a little bit more into sneakers because my girlfriend's really into them, and I think some of them are cool. It's just that I've never wanted to make it like my life, you know? Is there a clothing item that you kind of like, that's your hallmark? That's something that you always like to wear? Like whether it's like a type of t-shirt, like a style of t-shirt or like a sweatshirt or anything?
Yeah, well, I've recently, so on my dad's side of the family, we don't celebrate the Christmas holiday. We celebrate the solstice every winter.
That is witchy.
And yeah, and he goes to Burning Man too. So they're all like, that's the witch side kind of. But we got everybody in the family, we all got matching jumpsuits with our names on them.
That's fun. I like that. I appreciate that.
Yeah, so we had those, but I think my dad has 2 batches of kids, me and my older sister, and then he has like 3 younger kids who are like in their teens. And I think he just thinks me and my sister are super fat or something because, I mean, his other kids all have like hyperthyroid, so they're like sticks. So he got everyone well-fitting jumpsuits except for me and my sister. He got us these huge ones. So what I did is I just ended up cutting off the legs. And so now I just have like the top. I mean, it's very bisexual of me. I got to cut the clothing somehow. And so I cut off. Exactly. So I cut off the legs and now I just wear the jacket that says Gabbie on it. So I just like have a mechanic sort of looking outfit. So I've been wearing that a lot as my like signature item. And I almost feel like because I talk about bisexuality so much on the stage, I almost feel like I'm like cosplaying as like bisexual, like having like not even cosplay or like leaning into it more of just like being like wearing clothes where it's like it's very obvious that like there's something wrong with me.
You're playing the role. Yeah, you're trying to fit the bill.
Yeah.
Optically, I look bi.
Yeah.
Right? So you have to believe me. There is substance here.
Exactly. No, but I'm playing a part. I'm appropriating cultural references from my own people, I guess.
Right? It's not. You have to keep throwing. I mean, I feel like appropriation is just like, no, this just looks dope. I appreciate it. Yeah.
Yeah. Like the other day I was wearing my like Gabbie jacket and underneath I was wearing a crop t-shirt of it's a Lord of the Rings t-shirt where it looks like it's Mordor, but it's like a nice design, so you can't really tell it's Lord of the Rings, but it's like a Lord of the Rings shirt with this, and then like the boots and the skinny pants. I was like, That's
the best stuff. It's the things that just look cool, but if you are in the know, you know what it means. But you don't have to know in order for it to look awesome.
I don't know if it looks awesome. It also just says Mordor across it, but I like it. And I just want people to know I'm evil.
That's
Team Sauron, you know?
Just know I'm on the wrong side of history.
Exactly. I'm definitely on the wrong side.
Oh, shit. All right, we got one more. YouTuber Trevor Jacob admits to crashing a plane for views. So I did see this. I saw this earlier today. So he apparently had like a small, like 1-person plane, and then just jumped out of it and like parachuted safely, and then just let the plane go. So obviously could be a problem. You don't know where the plane's headed, and could crash right into people, mountain goats, a bear. You don't even really know, but it's just. You said you like get on TikTok and stuff quite a bit. Like, what's the farthest I think you'd be willing to go to get some views at this point?
Well, that just makes me. Rich people just really need to figure out what to do with their time.
They don't even know what to do. They have nothing but free time.
And also, okay, I do feel like the more wealthy you get, the dumber you get, because you become more like isolated in your own little bubble. What would I do for views? Probably not much, honestly.
Yeah.
Well, I guess what I did for views is I did dance. So that was
Are you a dancer?
No.
Okay.
But I did like really dumb dances.
Movements to the web?
Yeah. So I was kind of selling my body a little bit, but I always am very fully clothed. Like I'm really like anti-nudity, which I think is just my sexual repression and stuff. Like I feel like
just wearing baggy tracksuits while you dance.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't want you to see a curve on this body.
Yeah, but I'm gonna move in a way that like it's basically I feel like I can't twerk, but I can shake every other part of my body. It's pretty impressive, and so I do stuff. That's about as far as I would go. I think maybe working in like journalism and having to do, it's just interesting that like man on the street stuff is so popular now, because I used to have to do that for like NPR like stories and stuff. So, and it was always so uncomfortable. And I always think it's funny that I like worked in journalism, because I don't really like talking to people for like the first time, or just being like, hey, I'm so like, I always feel like I'm a burden when I'm asking people to like be
like you're bothering
interviewed.
them.
Yeah, exactly.
Because you kind of are.
Yeah. And so, I would never want to do man on the street just recreationally. And it's just like so interesting that people are fine with like bothering people all the time. I'm like, maybe so yeah, I guess I wouldn't really do much if I had to. I wouldn't
destroy it. I don't want to destroy things for views. Like this guy apparently bought a plane and wrecked the thing. I can barely afford my car.
Yeah.
Like nice luxuries like that. Like the idea of having a plane to me is just like, wow, that would be super.
Maybe the plane was a Kia and he stole it.
Yeah. just to take the catalytic converter and bounce.
Exactly. It wasn't even his plane. But yeah, I feel like that it's very I would never want to harm somebody in the pursuit of views. I would harm myself for sure. Like self-harm is definitely something I would do, but not the risk of hurting other people.
Yeah. I didn't need anybody else to be involved with this. I will gladly crash my own car into something to make sure nobody else gets hurt, but I'm very badly damaged.
Yeah, I will buy another car so I can crash my car into that car.
Epic YouTube.
Exactly. I also, though in public, I also don't like people it's just so funny when you do see, like, there is that account TikTokers in the wild or whatever, but when you do see people making content, you're just like, it's very dystopian. So I really just don't ever want people to witness me making content as well.
Oh yeah, kind of like it's like a dying on the toilet kind of feeling, where it's like if your last gasping breath was you trying to do some like super reachy TikTok viral dance or something, and that's how you go out, and it's documented. It's the video of it is live for everybody to see.
Yeah, because there's there's several places around the world I know that you're not allowed to take selfies because so many people have like fallen over the edge of a cliff. Or there was like, I think it was like in Russia, there was this one train line where there was like these two people who wanted to recreate a scene from their favorite movie that was shot there, and then they got hit by the train and stuff. So that's just, I would feel so dumb. But I feel like that's probably how I'm going to die, though, is just being like, whoopsies, I was doing something silly. I thought it was funny, and then I fall to my death.
I was just trying to be famous. Is that so wrong?
Yes, it's so wrong. I just wanted to have strangers love me. Please. Love me for 10 seconds.
I know. It's strange when you see people like in precarious situations, whether you're at like a landmark or a destination, and they're just totally enamored by themselves and getting videos and pictures and whatnot, just totally oblivious to everything else that's going on. Part of you wants to be like, maybe if you stepped like a little closer to the right, Maybe. It would just be fun for everybody else here. And then it'd be like, oh my gosh, oh no. And you're like, okay, well, I guess worse things have happened.
Yeah, and then maybe you could pick up on their clout.
Yeah,
you know?
right. I just pick up their phone as they dropped it and be like, "Hello, everyone. It's me now." Like I'm hijack. That's how identity theft works. Just take over all their Instagrams and TikToks.
Yeah, but I feel like now we're all just like poised for tragedy. We're ready with our phones. Oh, something bad's happening. Let me just be a bystander and film it. I mean, that's like what's going on in like New York City right now. And it's just like, I don't know, people, you know, here we are.
I know. I've never had that gut instinct. I've never been the person when something bad's happening, my immediate reaction is to pull my phone out. Like I am a helper to a fault, so I will usually either be like I'm figuring out how to help the person or like mitigate a fight or something like that, or obviously just or getting the hell out of there depending on the situation.
Yeah, you're just like, yeah, I'm just like a really good person and I just will come and help people.
That's
That's nice of you. Yeah, I feel like I'm usually someone who just like walks away. I'm like, I don't know. Because at this point, too, you're just like, do I intervene? What do I do? I don't know. Like for example, there was a dog that was crossing the street the other day and I was like, do I try to do something with this dog? Like, I don't know, like would the owners be mad at me if I like was like, hey, is this your dog? They're like, well, maybe their dog crosses the street all the time. Because there's those savvy dogs out there that are just like the neighborhood dogs. They're just like, hey, I'm chilling. What's up?
People know that Poncho is in the neighborhood. He's nice. He's friendly. He just roams around.
Yeah. Like that's what happened to my sister's cat. My sister's cat because he had like a heart disease, so he looked really messed up. He was like really skinny, but he would still walk around the neighborhood and people were like, does anybody know that I found this frail stray cat? Does anybody want to take him? And then my sister's like, that's my fucking cat. He has a heart disease. I'm not a bad owner.
Yeah, right. I took him in. He looks terrible.
Yeah, he looks terrible.
He needs a good home. He clearly didn't come from one.
Yeah. She's like, it's not my fault. His heart doesn't work.
Shit. All right, that's going to do it for our dumb crimes for the week. So I'm glad you could jump on the show. We have our show tonight over at Banded Oak. This isn't going to be coming out by then, but I'm excited to have you on there. But what story did you have for us today? You weren't for real when you said you worked for the cops.
No, I don't actually. No.
Yeah.
That I thought that would just be funny anyway, law enforcement. But I do have a story about, because I did so for my job I work in podcasting, so we make like non-narrative what's the term?
Stories?
Long form, story series about, basically we started in like true crime, so it was kind of like Serial. I feel like Serial really kicked off the true crime era that we're in. And so I worked on this one show called Hell and Gone, and I was thinking it'd be interesting to talk about some behind the scenes of working on a true crime podcast.
I mean, because like I mentioned to you before the show, this is true crime-esque. You know, I feel like most of the genre is really trying to uncover cold cases and highlighting historical tragedies. And I'm just like, I'd just rather just goof about some dumb things that people did. That's really more my speech.
Yeah, because I had one thing that comes to mind that I was thinking would be interesting was maybe the worst cop that we've interacted with, so for one season we were working on this case that was pretty recent, like within the past it was within the past 7 years, which that's unfortunate because apparently if people die within the past 5 years, it's so much easier to like hack into their information, like online and stuff. But this happened, I think it was like 7 years ago. It was in Arkansas, and we were there investigating. It was never solved. Basically, there was this 18-year-old who was found in a drain pipe. And
now, when you say you were there investigating, like, what does that entail? Like,
really not much. It's mostly just getting documents and trying to talk to people and trying to figure out where people are. I mean, it's a lot of driving around because I think with so many like true crime cold cases, like, there are countless like online forums and people speculating, and that speculating is often just becomes so dramatic.
Yeah, I can just imagine you showing up on somebody's doorstep and being like, I have some questions about this bad thing that happened 7 years ago. Do you want to talk to me?
Yeah, and they're like, no. And also, I feel like what most people end up doing is they end up repeating information from a source that is not confirmed. So it's like, it's people talking about like these like third parties of like, I heard from this person who heard from this person, and then very few people have any like actual real info.
Like firsthand information, like they either were relevant in the sense that they were there or they knew the person directly. It's all just like passed on, like telephone at this point.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And then also, obviously, the people, if they were involved with a murder or someone dying, it's going to take years to build trust with people. But the way that
put on the old charm.
Yeah, but it's just like the way that true crime works now. This people want it now. They want it fast.
Right.
But it's like that's not how investigations go.
There's just a lot of speculation. And
there's like a lot of building. It's also been interesting, like with people's families too. It's really hard to navigate because they have their own narrative of what happened,
Sure.
and often that is not, there's no necessarily like facts that support that. They just have like this inkling that this is like what happened. So that's always hard to navigate. But we're working on this case, and often also the police won't talk to you because either they did like a really bad investigation and so they don't want to like get criticized, or they're just assholes.
I'm sure at a certain point for them, they're like, that part of the job is done, right? When they're looking at investigations, they're just like, yeah, that's done. It's over with. Now we're moving on to the next thing. They probably don't want to rehash like an old quote unquote like project that they were working on. They're like, shit, I'm too busy for this right now.
Yeah, because I guess there's one part of it. It seems like most like homicide detectives will have like 40 open cases at like any given time. So it's kind of like, yeah, they don't really have time to just like do one thing.
You want to bring up this old one? We got like 40 going right now.
There's just like, there's a lot of people who die, who get murdered, and they have to figure it out, but they don't, because it's also like, there's just some things where you're like, well, if they didn't do a good job right at the moment after the crime occurred, there's like so little you can do. Like if they messed up a crime scene, or if they didn't do certain interviews, the further you get away from a crime, the harder it is to like ever really solve it.
Yeah.
But we were talking to this one guy he was a homicide detective in Little Rock, and he had just been recently, this case was like 7 years old. He was like the new homicide detective on it, and he hadn't like sort of like dived into it yet, because what had happened is he got it like maybe when we were there, maybe it was like 4 months before we got there, he was like assigned to this case to like relook at it, and he didn't look at it because he got COVID. And the thing that was, and so he got really sick with COVID. I think this was like late 2021 or something. So I think people were still like, a lot of people were still like masking, but it was a little bit more flexible. But then it was still, a lot of debates of being vaccinated or not vaccinated.
Yeah, also I could see in Arkansas from a cop not being vaccinated and probably thinking it's a hoax to a certain degree until you're bed-stricken.
Yeah, so what was really confusing about it was, again, he's a detective, homicide. You're supposed to be like good at being a detective. And so what happened? So what happens? We got there, we had a meeting with him, and we were just like, okay, can you tell us like, if there's anything that you can, but also they can't like tell you anything until it's a closed case, basically. Because then that's when it becomes public record, which is an annoying thing where it's like if they don't ever close it, they can just be like never give you info. Where they're trying to change laws where it's like if a case is more than a year old, or I forget the time period, then it's like you should be able to get that documentation as an independent like investigator or something. Yeah. But we went there, had this meeting with him, and he was saying like, oh yeah, I haven't been able to work on it because I got COVID, but I just like really don't know how I got COVID. I mean, it's like such a mystery to me. And
that's the mystery he's trying to solve.
He was trying to solve. And he was like, me and the other people, we're like, very vaccinated people. And he told us that he was unvaccinated, but what he said was that he's been trying to be really safe about COVID. He's like, yeah, I'm unvaccinated. But I've been making sure, just like I'll go to like the grocery store, I'll go to work, and I'll go home. At work, though, within the police department, no one was wearing a mask. There didn't really seem to be any like COVID protocol. So it's like, well, there's maybe a place you could have gotten COVID. And then he said to us that he was like, yeah, I've just been really safe about it. The only thing I've really been doing is going to Razorback games, like every single one.
Get the fuck out of here.
I was like, oh, and you don't know where you got COVID
this
from?
Dude couldn't it be more oblivious to the situation, or just his own doing? Right?
Yeah, it's like you couldn't.
I don't get it.
I don't get where I get. I was like, oh, maybe it's where you like scream into each other's mouths,
and you're 2 inches away from the next person.
Yeah,
and
maybe
you're surrounded by 50,000 of them.
Exactly, and he was like, yeah, I just couldn't stop going to those games like the whole fucking time during COVID, or whenever you were allowed to like go back to them.
I'm gonna guess you probably got it when you were yelling, "Go Hogs!"
Yeah,
just jumped right in your mouth,
and then just like had a non-gay kiss with another man or something. I don't know. It was just, I was like, oh, and you're a homicide detective and you cannot deduce where the fuck you got COVID from.
Yeah, this is the level of detective we're working with. He can't even track down his own sickness.
Yeah, it's like you're not doing like the tracing. I mean, if you can't do the trace, I don't know if you're going to be able to really like piece any of this like together, this death. And it was just, we were just there just listening to him, and just, you just have to be so polite and be like, oh, because it's very nice of him to even take a meeting with us. But then for him to say that, all of us, like, we went back into our car after that, and we're just like, what the fuck is happening?
This is your best source. This is the helpful resource that you have on this particular story.
And I don't know. It's just like working, all of the shows that we did were like in Arkansas, and it's like kind of looking, I just feel like now so much corruption that happens within governments or like police departments, so much of it comes from just being bad at your job, you know?
Course,
like there's like, so there's people who are evil for sure, but most of us are just dumb, you know, or there's ego, because it seems like, you know, because you'll have like city police, county police, state police, FBI, and just people, the ego is just like, well, we don't want to work together because like I want to be the one who solves it. I'm just like, just be friends with the FBI. Like, you guys are all the same. You love to shoot people. Just like hang out together.
You have this in common.
Talk about your guns and whatever, and slap each other's butts in a not gay way, and then just fucking try to do something.
Try to do your job. You have to consider, so ego, I always say like ego, high ego and high stupidity is like the worst combination of person, because you're very proud, but you don't know anything like that's actually practical, like whatsoever. But then you also have to consider that like we hold these jobs in high regard, right? Because they're responsible for a lot. But I think for a lot of these people, it's like, no, it's just it's a job. And you don't want to be an overachiever, but you don't want to lose your job either. So you just kind of do the bare minimum to keep a job.
Yeah, that happened in the first season of this show, the season that I didn't work on. But basically the main detective on that one was in a local police department in like central Arkansas, which is like in the Ozarks and is like very remote. And he's now, because with that case, now they've found somebody that they think did it, and that was a lot of it was because the podcast I think the role of like true crime podcasts can be just being like alerting people, like reminding people, putting the pressure on people to like remember this case, focus on this case. But the detective on that one, he quit, or you know, whatever, you know, basically they probably wanted to fire him, and because he did such a terrible job, but then they were like, well, you can just step away or whatever. And now he's a truck driver,
and apparently to have a more wholesome life, and
apparently he likes that so much better because he doesn't have to talk to people. I was like, oh, it's me being a journalist too, but I was like, oh, but being a police, you're supposed to talk to people. That's like what your job is. And you're saying you didn't like talking to people and you didn't want to talk to people. Like, he was supposed to re-interview people, but what he did instead is he sent their statements that they made like 15 years prior just back to them, being like, is this still correct?
Have you pivoted? Have you changed at all in life? Maybe have a different outlook on it 15 years later?
Just say this is correct, as opposed to being like, let me talk to you as like with good question. It was just like, Jesus Christ. But now apparently he's much happier as a truck driver, because that's where his soul was all along, being alone on the road.
It's a low pressure job for sure.
Well, those trucks are big, but he was a police officer who didn't want to talk to people.
Didn't you say you had like one of the episodes or shows you'd worked on actually helped solve a cold case?
Yeah, that was that season.
It was that one. Okay, so you did uncover some good information.
That was the season, though, I didn't work on. But I've worked on the show and like this next seasons, and I don't think any of those really helped anything at all. But
is that the hope of everyone? Is that they're gonna like solve? That's the goal, right?
Yeah,
is that they're gonna solve a crime.
You want to solve, but that's very unrealistic. So I think really, the hope is just to be like, because there's so many murders, you just have to be like, let's care about this murder and try to like figure it out and remind you about how you guys, the police, did like a bad job, and see if we can like reinvestigate.
Just in case you needed a reminder, here we go.
Yeah, just in case you needed a reminder that you didn't figure this out, because that one, I guess that one just maybe it seems so obvious of like who did it, even though that's not the person who ended up being arrested and who's now like incarcerated. And there just still seems to be like lingering questions of like, well, were other people involved too? Because they thought it was the boyfriend. The podcast thought it was the boyfriend, but then it was like the boyfriend's cousin. And then it's also just so crazy that I was like, well, the cousin was there. He also like has a history of being like a violent person.
Yeah, he's got a lot of red flags. He checks a lot of boxes.
And
on
you're
this.
saying, yeah, and you're saying, and he was just there for like a few days, and you're saying you guys didn't interview this man, or you had no idea that he was there. And it's so yeah, that one, it's like it's more solved than it used to be.
Okay,
so that's cool.
Fair enough.
That happened. But I think the first season was successful, so then we're like, oh, let's make more seasons, because the host of the first season, she had like more of like a personal connection with that one, because her family like lives in the same town where this woman was murdered. And the next seasons were just like other Arkansas things that I was like, I don't know if these. It's like, since you don't
Is that
have
the name of the show? Other Arkansas.
Other
things?
Arkansas. It's called Other Arkansas.
The things the Waltons don't want you to know.
Yeah. Well, also I found in Arkansas, everything goes back to the Clintons somehow. You know, the Hillary Clinton did it.
Follow the money. That's what they always say.
Yeah.
I'm sure you could probably tie every major crime that's been committed in Arkansas either to the Waltons or the Clintons. Like that's where it would start. And obviously they might not be privy to everything that's going on underneath the umbrella.
I mean, you can, even if they aren't involved, you can somehow make them involved. You know, you can twist logic any way you want to make it fit your narrative. That's the great thing about the internet, is like you can just believe something and you can confirm your belief based on random info that's out there. You know, you don't even need the truth anymore. You can just confirm what you want.
Yeah, you just get a fragment of truth, and you're like, see, that's all I needed. I did about 5 minutes worth of research. I found one source that confirms how I feel.
Exactly.
And I'm just gonna ride that into the sunset, baby.
Exactly. I'm correct. 100%. Anyway, yeah. So that is the police. The police.
The police. Yeah, thanks for sharing. So before we wrap up, just let everybody know where they can find you on socials and website, and maybe some upcoming tour stops if you got them.
You can find me at GAHHHBBIEWATTS on TikTok and Instagram is where I'm most active, and because it's like Gabbie Watts, but it's like Gabbie Watts, like a scream.
Yeah. Really draw it out, yeah.
Exactly. So, and then I guess an exciting thing that's happening, I'll be in Nashville on June 17th performing at Third Man Records. That's going to be fun because I hope Jack White walks in and I'm just be like, hey, Jack White, here's my dumb comedy song about having a British accent. You like it? Can I be on your label? Thank you so much. So that one's exciting for me. And then in September, I think September 8th, I'm going to be in this new venue outside of Cincinnati headlining. So that's exciting.
Heyo,
and
congrats.
I'm going to say this venue that I've now forgotten the name, but it's a converted church.
Oh, fun.
So I'm just going to be talking about my puss in church. That's going to be fun.
Yeah, that'll be a good time.
So those are the two exciting things for the rest of the year.
Yeah, that's dope. Well, I'm happy for you. And it's awesome that you're here too. For anybody that is maybe listening for the first time, thanks, but like, review, subscribe, do all that kind of thing. Go to the YouTube channel, follow us there, and then we have some upcoming dates for the live show. It's gotten into a few festivals this year, so I'm very excited about that. Yeah, I started submitting the show to festivals instead of me, and it's the first time I've ever done that before, so I'm just trying to see where it goes and try to build up a little bit more of a reputation for the live show itself. If you've been to one before, thank you very much. We've got one this weekend with Mike Glazer at Bandit Oak, so I'll be excited to do that. But check out CoreyDavid.com for the upcoming tour dates. The festival that we got into, Winter Park Comedy Festival, which is the first weekend in June. So you can grab tickets for that on my website or theirs. And then we also were in the Omaha Comedy Festival, which, Omaha. I love it, but
yeah,
I
Omaha.
can see. It's actually not a bad town. I actually kind of like it there. And the rest of Nebraska, not so much. But Omaha is pretty dope. So if you're in those areas, look out for those festivals and grab tickets to those. And then you can check out all of my upcoming tour dates in addition to the storytelling show on my website. So thanks for listening. See ya.
Yeah.